Well, hello and welcome to what I like to call Chapter 83 of World's Longest Suicide Note. My name's Roger, and for the first time in several weeks, I'm feeling less meh. So that's a good thing. Kind of getting with it a little bit. But still, you know, the big picture is still the same as far as is when I'm going through a hard time, still suicidal. And I go through hard times weekly, like a lot of people. When you deal with constant mental illness, it's just there. It's a thing. So, but no matter what, I'm not a professional of anything to do with mental illness. I'm not your guy as far as that. Always seek out the best advice from professionals, which I am not. So, anywho's, we are going to move on. Going to put some color in this very small little painting that's only going to take me. I mean, this one take me the longest of all the paintings because, anyway. So, like, what I'm going to do all the time is start with some darker tones and then build up over time, over layer by layer, dark to light. So we'll just get started, and then we're going to chat a little bit while I'm doing this. And the chat may be shorter than usual because there's not a lot for me to, and it's acrylic. So people have asked me, well, what kind of paint do you use or what do you prefer? And I use oil, acrylic, watercolor. Watercolor is super hard and frustrating, and it doesn't do what I wanted to do. I have a really difficult time with watercolor. I love watching people who know how to do it because they're like awesome at it, and I like the finish, the way it looks. But that's really hard. And then oil paints, I've painted oil before. I love the consistency and the brightness and this and that, but I just don't. It's not for me. I need to be able to move on fairly quickly, and if you make mistakes, to be able to go over them. With oil paints, a lot of times you with the oil paints, like for me, I know that I can go over this in 15 minutes and it'll be like it never happened. And sometimes that's a disadvantage because you like to mix things together. You want to get some of that intermingling of colors. That you really can't. But the problem with like oil paints, then you work it too much and it just all kind of muddies out. And so I don't. That's just not my. Because I mean, there's no way with my mentality, I could spend a month painting a picture. It would not happen. It would not get done. Pure and simple. And I know that a lot of the artists don't just have one painting that they're working on for months and months. They got several going at the same time, but that would just mess with my head on different levels. So anyway, so this is one of the darker. I don't think it's the darkest value. I may come and actually darken it in certain areas, but it's a good starting value. So yeah, but I wanted to just chat. There's always things that we really wish people would understand. As far as living with mental illness and suicide ideations, and trying to stay passively suicidal as opposed to actively. But we go through life, and I think one of the biggest challenges is that what we suffer from is in our heads. Technically, I'm not saying, some people, when you hear, oh, that's just in your head, that means you're conjuring that up for yourself, and that's not. That's the perception of somebody who hasn't lived with it or dealt with it. I think I'll do 2 coats. I'll let this dry for a minute. I'll come back over. I'll do the gray. But yeah, there's a perception, because it's invisible, and it's so hard to talk about on different levels. Brush me. So we always wish people would understand and have a greater understanding of what we deal with. The problem is we can't give that to you, because we don't know how to explain that to you. Sometimes we don't know how to explain it to ourselves. And a lot of times when we talk about the thoughts and feelings, there's this idea, and the idea is that we can't show what's going on. We can't show pain. We can't show anguish. We can't show the devastating cumulative power of stress, of anxiety, of worry about what, I can't explain to you in good enough terms my paralyzing fear, the fact that at some point you may be able to look at me from a distance and understand that I'm mentally ill, because I've tried to, in my life, limit anyone else's exposure to my mental illness, and it was done out of wanting to avoid stigma. I mean, I'm just as guilty as anyone else of not being transparent, open, honest, being myself, because of what I thought that would mean. And honestly, I just didn't want anyone to know for the longest time that I suffered from that. And God, I just look at that now, and I wish that was different, because I catch myself talking to myself, doing other things that doing insane things, and I realize what it is, and with my hands, or just talking to myself a lot, and sometimes animated animatedly. Is that a word? Anyway, but fidget, a lot of fidget going on, and sometimes, that old feeling of don't show that, don't, comes out. I still get stressed about that, and I know that that's a lot of it. In at the end of the day, I still have to be aware of how that's going to impact me going forward. I still have to run a business, and I still have to work very hard at my job, and there's a lot of that not image, so to speak, because it's not. I mean, I don't serve an image anymore. But I also, at the same time, I have to be aware about the impacts of absolutely dropping all pretense and all guard, because my whole life I've trained myself to not do that. But now it's like that's coming through, whether I want it to or not. And for a large part, a lot of it I'm fine with. I'm not going to stress about some of it, but I'm not sure about how much of it to allow to come out, because it doesn't serve any real purpose in my life. It doesn't make it easier, it doesn't relieve pressure, it doesn't do things like that. It's just thoughts and feelings and anxiety put in motion, so to speak. So it's not like by doing that I feel better or something. It's just I'm not being a gatekeeper so much of my behavior, how my thoughts and feelings interact with my behaviors. Whereas I used to totally not allow anything like that to ever. I mean, I'd excuse myself and go to the bathroom to adjust, if needed. Don't show at all costs. And I don't do that anymore. But at the same time, I have concerns that I don't want to also let it go the other way, and now those things are causing awkwardness. I don't want to do that. So anyway, I'm still struggling with how much, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are feeling the same way. It's that, finding a balance between being open and honest, but also not being too open and honest, where now that could cause problems. And it's not just the problems maybe in that moment, it's how we take a situation and we blow it up in our heads and we catastrophize it. So it's also limiting that time, because if I find that I have let that guard down, and then some behavior has come up, and in my mind I'm going to be focused on that, and that's going to have a real impact, like on my night's sleep, because it's going to come out. I may go to bed and not think about it, but as soon as I get to go to the bathroom, that's what I'll be thinking about when I get back into bed. And then it'll just be going and going and going. So I also know that putting things, allowing the curtain to be pulled back a little bit is great. You pull it too far back, you feel exposed, and then you have to justify everything in your head. So, you know, it's always kind of this give and take. But I will say, the more that you're open, and people know, I mean, that's the one thing, is that now I've been able to tell everybody, it's like, this is what I deal with. So they know if I go into a situation and that's something they see, they understand. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I can't really go. I have to let this, before I could layer more on there, I have to let it dry up. So I'm going to close it down today, and then I'll catch you in the next one. I'll be putting some layers on this before then, but you'll be able to see it kind of come a little bit to life here for the next one. So it's silly. I hope you have a great day. I hope you keep fighting. Yep, and we will catch you in the next one.